Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and in today's video I'm going to be crocheting a checkered tote bag. So these have been popping up on my Instagram lately and I am so in love with them. So I really want to try and make one for myself. And of course I'm bringing you along so you can all learn to make one as well. So we're going to be making this up as we go and hopefully still get a great end result. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm using two different colors, one off-white and one dark green. They are both 100% cotton and I'll leave links to them in the description down below. I used a little more than 2 balls of yarn for this project. I'm also using a size 2.5mm hook. So we are starting with a slip knot on our hook and then chaining 95. We want 19 squares in this direction, each of them 5 stitches wide. When I've chained all my stitches, I put my hook through the second chain, hook my yarn, pull it through, hook it once again, and pull it through both loops on my hook. This is a single crochet and this will be the only stitch I'm using. I repeat this 4 more times for a total of 5 single crochets. So for this project, we are not going to be switching color for each square. Instead, I'm bringing both colors with me using this technique. I'm crocheting around the color I'm not using, so it's hidden by the other color. So now that I'm switching to green, I'm laying the white strand down along the work and just incorporating it into my stitch like so. Then I continue with 4 more green single crochets before switching back to white again. With this technique, it's important to pull the resting strand tight so it doesn't poke through the stitches too much. And this is basically it. Just continue this all the way to the end of the work. When you reach the last stitch, chain 1 and flip your work to continue the opposite way. So all of these squares are going to be 5 stitches wide and 5 rows tall, as square as possible. When I reached the end of my 5th row, I chained 1 with the other color, because now I'm starting a green square above the white one. This is going to take a while, but you want 14 rows of squares on top of each other. These are going to be the bottom, front, and sides of the bag. So now I'm almost at the point where I'm going to start making the handles. And it's funny because I think this is only the 2nd video I've ever done on crocheting. The first and last one was making these crocheted bags, and that was actually a couple years ago. And I haven't really crocheted much since then. So I don't really know why I suddenly got into crocheting again, but I'm actually enjoying it and it's kind of nice to try something different too. So I don't know how it is with you guys, but for me, I feel like the days in quarantine are just the same. Like every single day is the same as the day before. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I've gotten stuck in like some routine, but I also feel like I need some sort of routine or like structure to not go completely insane. It's like you get in this bubble where it's easier to be a blob that just studies and nothing else. And then you have no energy to reach out to people, which is what gives you energy. So it's like this bad cycle. When I hear myself say it, it doesn't make any sense, but I don't know if any of you guys can relate. Okay, so I've finished crocheting 14 rows of squares, and now it's time to continue with the handles. And from here on, I'm going to be crocheting only 6 squares wide on both ends of the piece. So let me show you how I do that. So continuing as if you were just crocheting another row, we are single crocheting along the first 6 squares. When you've put the 5th stitch in square number 6, chain 1 and flip your work as if you were at the end of the row. Now crochet back and forth just like before, switching between the 2 colors. I kept going until I had 18 rows of squares. These are going to be double the length of the finished tote bag handles. When you reach the end of the final row, instead of chaining 1, pull both strands of yarn through the stitch and cut off the ends, pulling tightly to secure it. Now for the second handle, we are starting from the inside this time in the top left corner of the 6th square like so. To pick up the stitches, I'm inserting my hook through the first chain and pulling through and then chaining 1 more. This will count as my first single crochet. Using the exact same technique as before, I'm crocheting towards the end of the row, switching color every 5 stitches, and building squares on top of each other. Okay, we are at the end of the second strap, and I'm once again closing it off by pulling both strands through the last stitch. Now we are almost there. We just need another square of 19 by 14 squares, just like the first one. I'm chaining 95 again, but this time starting my first square with the other color. This is really important as it will make sure the pattern lines up. So for example, I started my first row of squares with white, then green, then white, etc. And this time I will be starting with green, and then white, and then green. After what felt like another eternity, I finally finished the second piece, which will be the back, sides, and bottom of the bag. And now all there's left to do is assembly. I have to admit this is not my strong suit, but basically you want to join the 2 strands to the square piece in the most discreet way possible. I used what I believe is called a zipper stitch, where I started with a slip knot and then put the hook through the back chain of both pieces, lining them up so the squares would match. I found out that this was quite noticeable though, or maybe I just did it a little bit too tightly, so instead I hooked the front chain of each stitch, so the ones facing upwards when the work is laying down. After a few tries, I got it to look pretty decent, I think. Of course, the side I've been working on is the wrong side, and the other is what will be facing out. I never dated a black guy. I said you're brown yourself. I repeated this for the other handle, this time going through the front loops the first time around. Okay, now I have to connect the bottom and sides of the bag. Firstly, I'm flipping it inside out and then grabbing my hook with a new slip knot on it. You could start at the edge of the handle and go all the way around, but I started at the bottom instead. Anyway, I'm pretty much using the same technique as for connecting the straps to the body of the bag, and just putting my hook through both layers and slip stitching all the way around. So I'm only hooking the yarn once and then pulling it through all the loops on the hook. I didn't go about this process as systematically because I knew it would be hidden, but I still think it looks pretty okay. Once I got to the edge, I just turned the corner, so to speak, and continued along the side of the bag. I stopped when I reached the same square as where the straps start, so 14 squares from the bottom. This is where the bag will open. So here I pulled my yarn through the loop again, closing it off and starting over on the other side. So after repeating this for the last side of the bag, I'm almost there. As you can see, when I turn the bag right side out, there are these corners that are kind of open, and you could totally leave it like this, but I want my bag to have a bit of structure. So I'm going to be placing a few stitches in the corner here. If you count from the top, it's 3 of the diagonal squares down, and using a needle and some leftover yarn, I'm just placing a few rough stitches right across this triangle shape to keep it secure and in place. I of course repeated this for the other corner, and now I'm finished. This is how my crocheted checkered bag turned out, and I'm absolutely in love with it. It's super spacious and at the same time very soft and has a very clean finish, so I'm very satisfied.
She like my baby mama, know how to take care of me, give my baby problems, you gon' regret everything. So I let her know, gotta let her know, came through the front door, I'll be ready for her. And if it's what you want, I'ma give it to you, yeah, promise, I'ma give it to you. Miss that smile, Lord knows I ain't seen that in a while, but it's your style, so something must be up keeping you down.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really love how this bag turned out. It is super stylish and spacious and just practical, and I know that I'm gonna be using it for the entire spring and summer. If you decide to recreate this bag, I would love to see it, so please tag me. It really makes my day. If you have any questions or ideas for future videos, feel free to leave a comment down below, and otherwise I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
Know how to take care of me, give my baby problems.